Imagine walking down like a dimly lit street
Okay.
and a figure steps out from the shadows, blocks your path, and gives you that classic ultimatum.
Right. Your money or your life.
Exactly.
Right.
Your money or your life. And it is terrifying, obviously, but the choice is instant. You hand over the wallet.
I mean, yeah, you do it without a second thought.
Right, because your heartbeat, your future, your actual existence, it is all worth infinitely more than, the paper in your pocket.
Of course.
But the crazy thing is, tomorrow morning, when the sun comes up and your alarm goes off, you are going to reverse that trade.
Yeah, that is the hard truth.
Without a weapon in sight, without any overt threat, you are going to willingly hand over a piece of your actual life in exchange for money.
It is a profound paradox, really, when you just look at it clearly.
It totally is.
We walk around treating our time as this, infinite renewable resource while we treat our money as precious and finite. But the reality of our mortality dictates the exact opposite.
And that inversion, that exact paradox, is the beating heart of the philosophy we are exploring in today's deep dive.
Yes.
We are pulling some incredible insights from the foundational book, Your Money or Your Life, by Vicki and Joe Dominguez.
Which is such a classic.
It really is.
Yep.
And to be clear to everyone listening, this is not about cutting out your morning lattes or trying to gamify some stock portfolio.
It's not at all.
It is a fundamental rewiring of how you perceive wealth, value, and really your own existence. The whole central thesis demands that you stop looking at money as mere currency.
Right. You have to recognize it as a physical manifestation of the irreplaceable hours you have spent alive. It is your life energy.
Life energy. That phrase changes everything. And I think to really grasp how radical this shift is, we have to look at Joe Dominguez's background.
Oh, his story is fascinating.
It is wild. He did not approach finance from the perspective of, some privileged insider. He grew up in Spanish Harlem.
Living on government assistance, right.
Yeah, living on welfare, raised by a mother who didn't even speak English. He survived not by being the biggest guy on the block, but by becoming the strategist for a local street gang.
Which is a very specific type of education.
Exactly. He learned incredibly early on how to analyze and navigate these hostile systems just to survive.
And that is what makes his transition to the corporate world so interesting.
Right. So he eventually lands this job on Wall Street in the 1960s. But he applies that exact same street survivalist mentality.
He didn't care about the prestige.
Not at all. He didn't look at the corporate ladder as some noble path. He looked at the whole financial system as just another hostile machine that he needed to decode.
Yeah, just another system to beat.
Right. So he invents these early technical analysis tools back when computers were like massive mainframes taking up whole rooms. He makes his money, and he permanently exits the workforce at age 31.
31. That is just...
It is unheard of, right? He realized the money game was basically an enclosure, and the only winning move was to just buy back your own freedom and get out.
And buying back that freedom requires an incredibly honest accounting of where you currently stand.
Which brings us to the 9 steps.
Right. Step 1 of the framework. It demands this level of, financial archaeology that most people actively run away from.
Oh, yeah. People hate looking at the past.
They really do. You have to calculate your total lifetime earnings.
Wait, like every single dollar?
Every single dollar you have ever been paid in your entire life, from your very first summer job mowing lawns right up to your current salary.
That sounds exhausting to figure out.
It is a project, for sure. But then you calculate your current net worth, so assets minus liabilities. You have to ask yourself, what do you actually have to show for all those hours of existence you have already traded away?
Man, for a lot of highly successful professionals, I imagine that baseline is just a brutal shock.
Oh, it is devastating for some.
You might realize, millions of dollars have passed through your hands over the years, yet your actual retained wealth is negligible or even negative.
Exactly. But the rule the authors stress here is crucial. No shame. No blame.
No shame, no blame. I like that.
It is purely about establishing coordinates. I mean, you can't chart a course out of the woods if you refuse to admit which tree you are standing next to.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So once you accept that baseline, you move to step 2, which is confronting the active bleed.
Right, calculating what they call your real hourly wage.
And this is where the math gets really uncomfortable. Because we all know the fiction of the salaried breakdown, right?
Oh, yeah, illusion.
Yeah, you make, say, $2,000 a week. You ostensibly work 40 hours, so you tell yourself, hey, I make $50 an hour.
But that number is a complete trap.
It totally is. Let's break down why using this amazing case study from the source material. This guy, Mark.
The construction manager.
Right. Mark was a project manager in commercial construction. On paper, his income was fantastic. He looked super successful.
But his stress levels were off the charts.
Astronomical. So when he finally sat down to calculate his real hourly wage, he had to factor in all the hidden financial gravity of his career.
The job-related expenses.
Exactly. First, the explicit costs. The gas for this grueling, soul-crushing commute. The constant wear and tear on his truck. The professional wardrobe he had to maintain.
And the food, too.
Right. The expensive takeout lunches, the coffee runs, because he was entirely too exhausted to meal prep on a Sunday.
And then you have to add in the decompression costs, which are honestly the most insidious part.
Tell me about it. Decompression costs are wild.
These are the expenses you incur specifically to recover from the psychological damage of your job.
Like retail therapy.
Exactly. The premium streaming services you just zone out to for hours. The wildly expensive vacations you take just to stave off a total nervous breakdown.
Or the convenience services you hire out, like paying someone to mow your lawn because you have absolutely zero personal bandwidth left on a Saturday.
Right. You are essentially using your paycheck to treat the symptoms of earning that exact same paycheck.
It is a crazy cycle. And the calculation doesn't even stop at the money spent. Mark also had to add up the unpaid time his job demanded.
The invisible hours.
Yeah, the 2 hours stuck in gridlock traffic every day. The time spent answering frantic emails at 9 p.m. The hours on Sunday afternoon completely ruined by that anticipatory dread for Monday morning.
The Sunday scaries.
Exactly. So when Mark took his newly reduced net income, after all those job costs, and divided it by his drastically increased total hours dedicated to the job.
The math is just devastating.
It was. He was trading his finite existence for a mere fraction of what he thought he was worth. He was making closer to minimum wage when he really crunched the numbers.
But that devastation is exactly what triggers the pivot.
It forces a change.
It really does. For Mark, realizing his true hourly wage shattered the golden handcuffs. He suddenly realized he could quit this high-pressure firm, take a much lower-paying local job with zero commute and zero decompression costs.
And actually come out ahead.
Yes. He actually retained more wealth at the end of the month, working a simpler job.
That is just brilliant. So if our real hourly wage is drastically lower than we assume, the immediate question becomes, how do we stop bleeding out our irreplaceable hours?
Right.
And the answer, crucially, is not budgeting.
No, budgets don't work here.
But budgeting is dictatorial. It is this mechanism of deprivation where you, arbitrarily decide you're only allowed to spend $50 on dining out this month.
Which just makes you feel restricted.
Right. What the framework suggests instead, and this is step 3, is tabulation.
Tabulation. Total unflinching observation of where your energy is flowing.
Yes. You track every single cent, and you group these expenses into your own unique categories, not some standard banking template.
And then comes the translation phase.
This is the best part. You convert the dollars you spent back into the hours of your life they represent, using that newly calculated real hourly wage.
The sources have this brilliant illustration to explain this, the magazine analogy.
Oh, I love the magazine analogy. Walk us through it.
So let us say your real hourly wage shakes out to $10 an hour.
Okay, $10 an hour.
And you look at an $80 stack of magazine subscriptions just sitting on your coffee table, unread.
Right.
Under the old paradigm, you might feel a mild twinge of guilt. Like, oh man, I wasted $80.
Sure, $80 down the drain.
But under the new paradigm, you don't see $80, you see 8 hours of your life.
Wow.
You traded an entire exhausting workday of your brief existence on this planet for a pile of glossy paper you haven't even opened.
That hits so much harder.
It does, because you could have spent that day hiking or sleeping or just sitting with your family. It completely rewires your relationship with consumption.
It does, but I have to challenge this a bit because as liberating as it sounds in theory, the practical application seems incredibly heavy.
How so?
Well, if I am standing in line at the grocery store and I am mentally calculating the literal minutes of my life it takes to buy, a carton of organic eggs, that sounds like a fast track to decision fatigue and total burnout.
Mm-hmm.
How does this not just turn into an obsessive anxiety loop for people?
That is actually the most common friction point when people first adopt this mindset.
I believe it.
But think of it like putting on a pair of infrared glasses inside a really poorly insulated house.
Okay.
At first, it is overwhelming, right? Because suddenly you see bright red heat leaking out of every single window frame, every door jamb.
It's like a disaster.
Exactly. But the goal isn't to walk around wearing the infrared glasses forever, stressing about every tiny crack.
Oh, I see.
The goal is to see the leaks clearly enough to just weather-strict the house. Once you patch the obvious holes, the house naturally retains heat. You stop obsessing over the thermostat.
Okay, I like that a lot. The glasses just change your default vision so you can fix the big problems.
Precisely.
Right.
And the mechanism that actually patches those leaks is step 4. It is a set of 3 specific questions you have to apply to your spending categories every month.
This is how you interrupt the brain's automatic dopamine loops around buying stuff. Let us walk through those 3 questions because they are so precise. Question 1. Did I receive fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to the life energy spent?
Meaning, was the actual joy I got from that purchase worth the physical hours I had to work to get it?
Exactly. And then question 2 elevates it from just mere satisfaction to, like, your core identity.
Right.
Question 2 is this expenditure of life energy in alignment with my values and my life purpose?
Which really forces you to separate your intrinsic desires from mimetic desires.
Mimetic meaning like copying other people.
Exactly. Are you spending this time to build a life you actually love, or are you spending it to maintain an image for people you barely even know?
Such a crucial distinction. And then question 3 is the ultimate hypothetical. How might this expenditure change if I didn't have to work for money?
Because as we saw with Mark, the construction guy, so much of our spending is just a coping mechanism for the exhaustion of the rat race itself.
Totally. You mark each category with a plus, a minus, or a 0. And applying these questions creates what the authors call financial integrity.
Yes, financial integrity.
You are no longer navigating by the external markers of consumer culture, keeping up with the Joneses. You are using an internal yardstick.
But to ensure that internal yardstick doesn't warp over time, you have to make the data inescapable.
Which brings us to step 5, the most tactile part of the whole process. Charting your progress.
The wall chart.
Yes, the wall chart. You take a large piece of physical graph paper, you put it in a highly visible place in your home, and you plot your total monthly income against your total monthly expenses.
2 lines.
2 lines. Now, the immediate reaction of almost anyone who operates in our modern digital world is, why on earth would I put this on a physical wall?
Right, people say, I have an app for that.
Exactly. A private spreadsheet on my laptop can calculate this instantly. Why a poster board?
Because a spreadsheet hidden in some minimized window on your laptop is fundamentally passive.
It is out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. You have to actively choose to open it, which means you can actively choose to ignore it when you know you've had a really bad month of spending.
Oh, I've definitely done that.
We all have. But a physical chart on your wall is ambient pressure. It changes your physical environment.
It stares back at you.
Yes. By bringing your financial reality out of the shadows and making it inescapable, you trigger the brain's primal pattern recognition and reward centers.
It transforms the absolute drudgery of tracking into a highly motivating visual game.
It turns abstract anxiety into a concrete opponent that you can actually fight.
I want to highlight the story of Tanya from the source material here, because it shows exactly how powerful this physical gamification can be.
Tanya's story is incredible.
It really is. So Tanya was a graphic designer, and she was carrying $26,000 in debt.
A pretty stressful amount.
Definitely. But her bigger issue was this profound misalignment of values. She worked for a major defense contractor.
Oh.
Right. And it deeply conflicted with her personal worldview. She literally summed it up as, bombs by day, peace by night.
Because she was volunteering.
Yeah, she spent her evenings volunteering for peace initiatives, just to emotionally reconcile what she was doing during her day job.
Yeah.
She was trapped in a job that compromised her integrity simply because she needed to service her debt.
It is a devastatingly common scenario. The debt dictates the career, and then the career compromises the individual.
But Tanya put the chart on her wall, and she took it a step further. She created a specific section on the chart for her debt using these little Velcro patches with numbers on them.
Oh, I love that detail.
Right. Every time she paid down a portion of her debt, she physically peeled a Velcro patch off the wall. She described the feeling as watching a candle melt.
That tangible feedback is huge.
And the crazy part is she didn't get some sudden windfall. She didn't get a massive promotion at work.
She just optimized.
Yes. Simply by applying those 3 questions to her spending, Seeing the flow of her time and physically interacting with her progress on the wall, she paid off the entire $26,000.
And notice the underlying mechanism there. That brings us to step 6, creative frugality.
Frugality usually sounds like such a miserable word.
It does. People think it means eating rice and beans forever. But frugality, in Tanya's case, wasn't about deprivation. The framework redefines frugality as getting maximum fulfillment for each unit of life energy spent.
Maximum fulfillment.
Right. Frugality is actually the highest form of self-respect.
I love that framing.
If you genuinely value your own existence, you just refuse to waste it on things that don't bring you joy or align with your core beliefs.
So by ruthlessly cutting the spending that simply didn't matter to her, she widened the gap between her income and her expenses. She essentially bought her life back.
And what did she do next?
Well, once she was debt-free, she quit the defense contractor, she rented out her townhouse, and she moved to Kenya to help establish a rural dental clinic. Yeah. Disconnecting her identity from her corporate salary allowed her to finally work for love rather than just working for money.
And Tanya's breakthrough really represents step 7, which is maximizing your income.
Right, because once you fix the spending, you focus on the earning.
Exactly. It is an inflection point where we shift from minimizing the bleed to maximizing the runway. If work is simply the act of trading your finite hours for capital, logic dictates you should seek the highest possible yield for that time.
As long as it doesn't violate your health or your integrity.
Exactly. And as you maximize that income and minimize the misaligned spending, that gap on your wall chart grows wider and wider.
Which sets up step 8 and 9. You take that surplus and you invest it.
And this introduces the third line on your wall chart.
Right, the passive investment income line. And we are looking for one specific, highly magical mathematical intersection.
The crossover point.
Yes, the crossover point. This is the moment your passive investment income line slowly climbs up and permanently crosses above your monthly expense line.
It is the ultimate milestone.
When that intersection occurs, you have officially achieved financial independence. The yield on your capital is now generating enough money to cover your baseline living expenses. You are no longer obligated to trade your time for survival.
You are free. Now, concepts like having enough can sound vague, but the math behind the crossover point is incredibly rigid.
Yes, let's talk about the math.
The sources bring in a modern rule of thumb that is heavily popularized in the financial independence community today. It is often referred to as the 25x rule.
Right, Mr. Money Mustache and that whole movement talks about this constantly.
Exactly. The math relies on the historical performance of broad market index funds. The rule basically states that you reach your crossover point when you have 25 times your annual expenses invested.
25 times?
Right. And this ratio allows for what is known as the 4% safe withdrawal rate.
Let's break that sequence down for the listener because it's essentially the engine of the entire strategy. If you track your energy and you calculate that your ideal fully aligned life costs you, say, $40,000 a year.
Okay.
You just multiply that $40,000 by 25. That gives you a target portfolio of $1 million.
Correct.
Once you hit $1 million invested, you're at the crossover point.
And the mechanics of that 4% rule are based on historical market returns, which have averaged roughly 7 to 10% annually over the long run.
Right.
So if your money grows at 7% and you only withdraw 4% to live on, and maybe inflation eats another 2 or 3%,
your principal investment theoretically remains untouched.
Exactly. It sustains you indefinitely.
But the obvious pushback here, and I'm sure people listening are thinking this right now, is volatility.
Well, the market crash scenario.
Right. What happens if I hit my $1 million, I proudly quit my job, and then the stock market crashes 20% the very next Tuesday?
Right.
Am I forced to sell my shares at a massive loss just to buy groceries?
That is the exact vulnerability that the framework solves by structuring your wealth into 3 distinct pillars.
Okay, the 3 pillars.
Capital, cushion, and cash.
Capital, cushion, cash.
Yes. The $1 million invested in the market, that is your capital. That is the engine. But you never expose the engine to short-term weather?
That makes sense.
That is what the cushion is for.
Ah, okay. The cushion is essentially 6 months to a year of living expenses kept entirely in liquid cash or highly stable, safe instrument.
Right, like a high-yield savings account.
So it acts as a shock absorber.
Exactly. If the market tanks, you just don't touch your capital. You stop withdrawing. You live off the cushion for a year, allowing your investments the time they need to recover.
So you completely isolate your daily survival from macroeconomic volatility.
You do. And then the third pillar is the cash.
What is the cash?
Well, here is the fascinating psychological reality of people who actually reach the crossover point. They rarely just start producing value.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that. You don't spend a decade cultivating incredible discipline and intentionality just to sit on a beach and let your brain atrophy.
Right. You continue to apply the 3 questions. You continue to live with intention. And often you take on passion projects that inadvertently generate income.
Like Tanya moving to Kenya and probably finding new, meaningful work that happens to pay something.
Exactly. And this creates a surplus beyond your baseline needs. That surplus is your cash.
I see.
It provides the freedom to fund unexpected luxuries or engage in really aggressive philanthropy or just reinvest to widen your margin of safety even further.
Which perfectly illustrates the ultimate evolution of this entire philosophy. The goal of tracking your life energy isn't just to achieve financial independence.
No, it goes beyond that.
It is to graduate to financial independence.
That is such a crucial distinction.
It really is.
When you are trapped in the traditional cycle, you are operating from a mindset of absolute scarcity. Your focus is entirely on accumulation and self-preservation.
You are hoarding resources because the system just feels so precarious and hostile.
But when you cross that point on the chart, the pressure suddenly lifts. Your focus shifts from building financial wealth to cultivating natural wealth.
Natural wealth, meaning community, skills, relationships.
Exactly. You suddenly have the emotional bandwidth and the sheer physical time to invest in your community, to learn complex new skills, to be deeply present with your family.
You move from a defensive posture of accumulation to an offensive posture of reciprocation. You are finally afforded the dignity of being a human being, rather than just a human doing.
It is the difference between surviving your life and actually inhabiting it.
Man, we have dismantled a lot of deeply ingrained assumptions today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We have seen how ignoring the hidden costs of our careers drastically reduces our true hourly wage. We explored how physical tabulation and visual gamification, like Tanya's Velcro patches, can break the trance of consumerism.
And we unpacked the mechanics of the 25X rule and the 3 pillars.
Right. How capital and cushion insulate you from fear. But all of this financial architecture, all 9 steps, they serve one single purpose: reclaiming your irreplaceable hours.
Because the math and the tracking, they are just tools. The real work is figuring out who you are when you aren't being rented out by the hour.
That is perfectly said. And that leads us to the final thought we want to leave you with today: a direct challenge to test your own alignment.
This is based on step 4, right?
Yes, imagine you wake up tomorrow morning and you receive an irrefutable notification that every single baseline expense in your life, your housing, your food, your healthcare, is permanently covered by passive income.
The financial gun has been completely removed from your head.
With the mandate of survival completely solved, what is the very first thing you would do with your Tuesday morning?
It is a profound question.
What does that Tuesday morning look like for you? Because if you don't have a clear answer to that question right now, the system is still making your choices for you.
It is time to start tracking your life energy.
It is time to stop handing over the wallet. It is time to put the chart on the wall. Your money or your life. The choice is yours.